Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the last installment in this series, the quick catch-up from 2020. Since, I was absolute crap in filming reading wrap-ups or vaguely talking about what I was reading last year. For the most part, I did read graphic novels. If you want to see everything I read for last year, check out my Goodreads. They're mostly just star ratings. I didn't really have it in me to write book reviews, but if you want, a quick, vague idea of how I felt about each item, please feel free to check out my Goodreads. That link is listed in the description box below. Like I've already said, for the most part, I did read graphic novels in 2020, and that's because 2020 was just a lot for me. For the majority of the year, I was traveling 4 hours one way to get to work and then 4 hours coming back. You'd think I would use that time to read, but frankly, it was just, eventually just get too tired to really care. And there was just a lot of burnout happening last year. And like everyone else, I was feeling, the whole pandemic mentally. So that meant I pretty much just read easier books, which meant graphic novels. Short little things that I knew that I could easily just crank out. Like with the other two videos, this list isn't in any particular order. The first graphic novel on this list is Dear Scarlet, The Story of My Postpartum Depression by Teresa Wong. And the title is very self-explanatory. For her first child, she did go through some serious postpartum depression, and it was her trying to find help, and the beginning not being taken seriously. Now, this graphic novel was very personal. She went into detail about her feelings of inadequacy, the different various coping mechanisms that she would try. Overall, I thought this really packed a punch. It was short and it was very fast moving, and it was just really powerful. I especially liked at the end, after telling her story, she was able to give assurances to the reader that if you are yourself feeling these things, you are not alone. Now, the next graphic novel on this list is Palimpsest by Lisa Woolrim Sjöblom. I know for a fact I didn't pronounce that right, and I'm very sorry. This was also a graphic novel memoir of her, she's an adoptee out of Korea. South Korea, I believe? Yes. She is an adoptee out of South Korea, and she is actually adopted out to Sweden. But like most international adoptees, she doesn't know anything about her background. And so this is her going through that journey and finding out more about herself. Throughout this journey, we actually learn the different dark secrets of international adoption, things that I didn't realize was an issue in regards to adoption. This is an industry, and I hate that it's considered a for-profit industry, but it is. And it's also such a damn shame that the frustrations that she encountered trying to figure out about her past was so common because there was just absolutely no information available. Whether it's from willful hiding or things just going missing, which is mind-boggling to me that years of information should just disappear like that. The author was saying that she would go to these chat groups and she would come across so many people that would tell their stories, and they just wouldn't be able to find out about anything because it was all gone. And that's heartbreaking, and I can't believe that information is just gone and these people will never know anything. Now, the author herself had enough information to track down, and she actually was able to find out who her mother was. And it still was not the happy ending that one would want. And I think that's where I'm going to leave, because I don't necessarily want to spoil it for people, but this whole graphic novel was incredibly eye-opening. Now, this next graphic novel is also a graphic novel memoir. I love graphic novel memoirs. If you can't tell from the list so far, it's Dancing at the Pity Party by Tyler Feeder. At least I hope I'm pronouncing her last name correctly. This is basically her documenting the loss of her mother. She loses her mother while she's away at college to cancer, and it's her dealing with that loss while away from her family, and also processing that loss when she is with her family. There was that juxtaposition where she was able to relate and be with her family, and then also have to deal with the awkward conversations with people who are not her family, because as much as people want to be comforting and give you comfort, people don't know how to do that, because as a society we find death to be very weird. Not weird, but anything that's too personal, such as grief, no one really wants to touch that. The author is Jewish, so learning about how Jewish people grieve their loved ones was very interesting. and I felt her grief. Like the way she wrote about it and illustrated it on the page was just, it really grabbed at my heartstrings. Like I really felt it. Not only was it very interesting to learn about her culture, but I did appreciate that how she wasn't afraid to go from like being super serious and telling a few jokes along the way. Overall, this was just a really sweet, lovely tribute to her mom, and I found this to be a raw and honest representation of grief and loss. The next book on this list is Kid Gloves, 9 Months of Careful Chaos by Lucy Knisley. Like I've said before, Lucy Knisley tends to do graphic memoirs. Found out recently that's not all she does. Very cool. But this is a graphic memoir, and it covers her trying to get pregnant and being pregnant and going through that experience. Her whole life she wanted to be a mother, and it came to a giant surprise to her when she couldn't get pregnant right away. Like trying to conceive turned out to be this really hard and heartbreaking endeavor. And when she did get pregnant, she was plagued by various health issues, and the birth itself it risked her life at the end. Thankfully, she's okay, and so is her child. Not only do we go through her personal journey, but she also includes some really cool facts about, giving birth and midwifery in general. It was an honest take on being pregnant. I don't think she really held anything back while she was telling her story. And I found learning different facts about the history and science behind reproductive health to be very cool. I learned a lot through this process, and I have a healthy fear and respect for giving birth. Not like I didn't before, but especially now. The next graphic novel is Everything is an Emergency, an OCD story in words and pictures by Jason Adam Katzenstein. I don't have OCD. At least I'm not diagnosed with OCD. I have my own anxieties that I should probably speak to someone about, but I don't think I have OCD. I know for sure I do not have his level of OCD. This author is a New York cartoonist, and he actually just illustrates his struggles with OCD. He's had it his entire life, and it starts off relatively small and then gets bigger and bigger and bigger as he grows up. He shows how absolutely debilitating OCD can be. And he shows in various situations how it had been a struggle to deal with. Like he eventually gets into this long-term relationship or this serious relationship that doesn't end up working out because of his compulsions. And I can appreciate that although this is very serious and not at all funny, he was able to talk about his struggles in a funny manner. In fact, the line from the synopsis goes, Jason shows us that OCD can be funny even when it feels like it's ruining your life. And because I don't have OCD, I feel like I've learned a lot of what OCD is. The next graphic novel on this list is That Can Be Arranged, a Muslim love story by Huda Fahmy. I enjoyed her last graphic novel, which was, I'm trying to read my notes. Yes, I'm Hot in This. And that one kind of describes her like living as a Muslim person in New York City among people who aren't Muslim. And that last graphic novel itself was pretty eye-opening in regards to what it means to live as a Muslim person. In this one, she actually wanted to find love, and she actually wanted to go through the arranged marriage process. And because she wanted to go through this process, we see her going through like meeting suitors that aren't quite right for her, seeing how her father would speak to these guys and see if they would be well suited for her. And once they go through that hurdle, they get to know her a little bit, and she goes, not for me, and then she starts the whole process over. I enjoyed learning about the societal expectations that Muslim women have in their communities. I found the gossiping aunties to be really funny. The next graphic novel is Snug, a collection of comics about dating your best friend by Katana Shetwind, also known as Katana Comics, and I found this to be very relatable. This was her just like doing various panels of like dating her best friend, and I feel like some of the panels like I could really relate to. Overall, very sweet. I just love the relationship between these two people, and it definitely gives you like that like feel-good vibes if you're looking for that. The next book on this list is actually finally not a graphic memoir. It's Check Please Volume 1 by Ngozi Akazu. I felt this was like the cutest freaking thing I've ever read. Biddy's our main character, and he originally was a figure skater, but he applies to go to college and he gets a scholarship by joining like the hockey team. And so it's him learning how to be a hockey player despite being a figure skater from before. Like he was this Olympic figure skater, and now he's a college hockey player. And so it's him learning how to play hockey. Like he knows how to play hockey, but it's him like really letting go his fear about being hit and like making friends within the team and living his true authentic self, because down in the South he couldn't be openly gay, but here at school he can definitely do that. And he has a crush on his team captain, and it is him like dealing with that. I loved Biddy as a character. Anytime that boy opened his mouth, I was like, I just want to squeeze your cheeks and I just want to hug you. And I loved him as a character. By the end of it, I'm like, Biddy is my son and I will die for Biddy. The next graphic novel on this list is The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse by Charlie Maxey. I recently read this for the Reindeer Readathon, and thankfully I was able to use it to hit one of the harder prompts. And I thought this was really cute and really heartwarming and really uplifting. This didn't necessarily have an overarching story. Basically, this boy took off to play, and as he's playing outside, he meets these various characters, and he like asks them questions, and he learns different things about each character. Like with the mole was able to tell him, with the older moles that I have met, they wish that they've listened to their dreams rather than their fears. And with the horse, the boy asks him, what's the bravest thing you've ever done? And the horse goes asking for help. So very, very uplifting. And I think it's definitely something you need to read if you're like not in the great headspace. I think it would really lift your spirits and help you with that. I liked the like scratchy kind of art, because the art definitely had this sketch style, and I really like how it basically intertwines with the overall like message of the story, how imperfection is perfect. Like I really liked that. I guess the only thing I didn't really like about this book is the font. Yes, the font matched the aesthetic, it just was hard to read at times. And the last book on this list is An Embarrassment of Witches by Sophie Goldstein and Jen Jordan. This is a graphic novel that follows these two friends, Rory and Angela. Rory is meant to go on this fantastic trip to Australia after finishing high school. She's meant to go on this trip with her boyfriend, and it's meant to be this fantastic coming of age trip, only to be dumped at the gate. And now she's decided not to go on this trip, and she has to head back home, and now she's at odds with everyone who's had plans already. Her friend Angela gets this fantastic job with Rory's mom, who is this well-known scientist, and it's Angela now trying to live up to those expectations. So it's this coming of age story in this fantasy world. I can absolutely relate to finding your own way. I'm 30 years old. I lie, I'm 31 years old. Had to think about that for a second. But I'm 31 years old and I'm still trying to figure things out. I found it to be relatable and fun, and I like how these two friends, even though they were super close, are at odds, and they try to figure things out on a personal level too. Not with just themselves and their own personal journey, but the relationship with their friend. And that is my list for the graphic novels that I loved in 2020. I'm not going to do a list of graphic novels that I didn't care for in 2020. We're just going to stick with the ones I absolutely loved. Let me know down in the comments below of the graphic novels that you loved. Feel free to recommend me some. And as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I guess it's thoughts out for now. Bye guys.